Step into History Page, where Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot brings timeless mysteries to life. A moonlit night on the Nile. A priceless scarab vanishes. Sir Reginald Carver lies dead, a secret clutched in his lifeless hand. Who struck the fatal blow aboard the luxurious Nefertiti? Was it the grieving widow, hiding her husband's fears? The ambitious heiress, chasing forbidden wealth? Or the silent guide, guarding ancient secrets? As lies unravel and a hidden tomb whispers of eternity, only Hercule Poirot's little gray cells can uncover the truth. But will the killer strike again before the final twist is revealed? Chapter 1. The Shadow of the Tomb. The air was thick with the scent of ancient dust and sun-baked stone as the Nile steamer Nefertiti glided smoothly along the river, its white hull cutting through the water like a knife through silk. It was February 1925, and the winter sun cast a golden haze over the Egyptian landscape, where palm trees swayed languidly and the distant pyramids stood sentinel against the horizon. On the upper deck, a small group of passengers lounged beneath a striped awning, their voices mingling with the clink of teacups and the soft hum of the steamer's engines. To an observer, it might have seemed a scene of perfect tranquility, a gathering of the privileged enjoying a luxurious tour of Egypt's wonders. But to Captain Arthur Hastings, there was an undercurrent of unease, a subtle discord that prickled at his senses. Hastings leaned against the railing, his straw hat tilted to shield his eyes from the glare. He was no stranger to travel, having accompanied his friend Hercule Poirot on many an adventure. But Egypt was a new frontier, its exotic allure tinged with a faint sense of menace. The steamer had been chartered by Sir Reginald Carver, a wealthy archaeologist whose recent discovery of a minor pharaoh's tomb in the Valley of the Kings had sparked a frenzy of interest among the British elite. This voyage was both a celebration and an expedition. For Sir Reg, Poirot's lips twitched in a faint smile. Off, you say? A most imprecise word, but not without merit. Let us consider the company, shall we? He gestured subtly towards the passengers gathered nearby. Sir Reginald Carver himself, a robust man in his 50s with a booming laugh and a face reddened by years under foreign suns, was holding court near the tea tray. His wife, Lady Evelyn Carver, sat beside him, her delicate features framed by a wide-brimmed hat. She was younger than her husband, perhaps 35, and her cool, reserved demeanor suggested a woman accustomed to guarding her thoughts. Across from them was Dr. Felix Langston, a wiry Egyptologist with nervous hands and a habit of glancing over his shoulder, as though expecting to see someone or something behind him. Then there was Miss Clara Henshaw, a spirited young heiress whose sharp wit and penchant for flirting had already drawn the attention of Mr. Julian Trent, a handsome but aloof businessman who seemed more interested in the tomb's treasures than in Clara's charms. Rounding out the group was Mrs. Dorothea Blake, a widow of uncertain age whose mourning black seemed at odds with her lively, almost predatory gaze, and Mr. Ibrahim Khalil, an Egyptian guide whose quiet dignity and impeccable English hinted at a complex past. "They're a mixed bunch," Hastings murmured. "Sir Reginald's all bluster, but his wife, she's like a statue. And that Langston fellow, jumpy as a cat." Poirot nodded, his fingers drumming lightly on the table. "Oui, and observe the small things, Hastings. The way Lady Evelyn's hand tightens on her teacup when her husband speaks of the tomb. The way Miss Henshaw laughs too loudly, as though to drown out her own thoughts. And Mr. Khalil, his eyes, they see much, but reveal nothing. There is tension here, mon ami. A mystery, perhaps, before a crime." Hastings frowned, broken only by the distant cry of a jackal. He was about to remark on it when a scream, shattered the stillness. A woman's scream, sharp and terrified, from the deck above. Hastings bolted from the cabin, Poirot close behind. His usual calm unruffled, but his eyes alight with purpose. They reached the upper deck to find the passengers gathered in a semicircle, their faces pale in the lantern light. At the center lay Sir Reginald Carver, sprawled across the deck, his eyes wide and unseeing. A thin trickle of blood seeping from a wound at his temple. The amethyst scarab, which he had shown the group earlier that day, was gone. Lady Evelyn stood frozen, her hand pressed to her mouth. Miss Henshaw clung to Mr. Trent, who looked grim but composed. Dr. Langston was muttering incoherently, while Mrs. Blake's eyes darted from face to face, as though searching for a clue. Mr. Khalil knelt beside the body, his expression unreadable, and murmured, "It has begun." Poirot stepped forward, his small frame commanding the scene. "Messieurs et mesdames," he said, his voice steady, "do not touch anything. Sir Reginald is dead, and the truth, it hides among us. Hercule Poirot will find it." Hastings felt a chill that had nothing to do with the desert night. The Nefertiti, once a haven of luxury, was now a prison, its passengers bound by suspicion and fear. The game, as Poirot would say, was afoot. Chapter 2. The Silent Scarab. The deck of the Nefertiti was a tableau of shock and suspicion, as the lantern light flickered over Sir Reginald Carver's lifeless form. The night air, heavy with the scent of the Nile, seemed to press down on the gathered passengers, each face a mask of grief, fear, or calculation. Captain Arthur Hastings stood near Hercule Poirot, his heart pounding from the suddenness of the tragedy. The scream that had drawn them here, Lady Evelyn's, near the body, his expression somber but composed. "Poirot," Hastings whispered, "what do you make of it? A robbery gone wrong? That scarab was worth a fortune." Poirot rose, brushing invisible dust from his immaculate suit. "A robbery, mon ami? Perhaps. But the scarab, it is not merely a jewel, it is a symbol, a key to something deeper. Observe the wound. Clean. Deliberate. This was no accident, no impulsive act. We must learn who stood to gain from Sir Reginald's death, and from the scarab's disappearance." The steamer's captain, a burly Englishman named Harris, pushed through the crowd, his face flushed with agitation. "This is a disaster!" he barked. "Sir Reginald? Dead? We must alert the authorities in Luxor at once. And that cursed scarab, gone! I warned him about flaunting it." Poirot raised a hand, his voice calm but commanding. "Captain Harris, you will do no such thing until Hercule Poirot has examined the scene. The authorities, they will trample the truth with their boots. We must preserve every detail." Harris bristled, but relented under Poirot's unwavering gaze. "Very well, Mr. Poirot, but we're anchored in the middle of the Nile, and I've a ship full of passengers to manage. What do you propose?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "First, we secure the body. Then, we question. Everyone here was on this deck or nearby when the scream was heard. No one leaves the Nefertiti until we know the truth." A murmur rippled through the group, some indignant, others frightened. Lady Evelyn spoke, her voice trembling but controlled. "Mr. Poirot, surely you don't suspect one of us? My husband he was beloved. Who would do this?" Poirot's mustache twitched. "Madame, it is not a question of love, but of secrets. Everyone has them, and someone here has—" "Really, Doctor, you sound like a penny dreadful. Curses don't bash people over the head. Someone here did this, and I'd wager it's about money." "It always is," Mr. Khalil, who had been silent, spoke quietly. "The scarab is no mere trinket. In my country, such objects are said to hold the soul of their owner. To steal it is to invite judgment. Poirot's attention snapped to Khalil. Monsieur Khalil, you know much of these ancient ways. Were you on deck when Sir Reginald fell? Khalil met Poirot's gaze evenly. I was below, checking the itinerary for tomorrow's visit to the tomb. I heard the scream and came at once. Poirot nodded, filing away the response. He turned to Captain Harris. Capitaine, please ensure Sir Reginald's body is moved to a secure room. No one is to touch it until I examine it further. And you, messieurs et mesdames, will remain on this deck. Hastings, assist me. As the passengers dispersed to their seats, whispering among themselves, Poirot and Hastings examined the scene. The deck was polished wood, the chairs wicker, and a small table held an empty teacup and a crumpled napkin. Hastings pointed to a faint smear of blood near the railing. Look, Poirot, he was struck here perhaps and fell. Poirot crouched, his eyes tracing the smear. Oui, but notice the angle. The blow came from behind, and the blood, it is not splattered but controlled. The killer was precise, Hastings. And the scarab's case. He pointed to a small velvet box lying open near the body, its interior empty. It was taken after the blow, not before. This was planned. Hastings felt a chill. But who, Poirot? They all have alibis, more or less. Poirot's smile was grim. Alibis, mon ami, are like the sands of Egypt, easily shifted. We will question further, and we will watch. The truth, it hides in the small things, a glance, a pause, a lie too carefully told, as in his piercing gaze and measured words. Messieurs et mesdames, Poirot began, his voice clear and deliberate. A crime has been committed, a life taken, and a treasure stolen. But fear not, for Hercule Poirot is here, and the truth, it cannot hide from me. We shall proceed with order and method. Each of you will account for your movements this evening, and I shall listen, not only to your words, but to what lies beneath them. Hastings noted the unease that rippled through the group. Lady Evelyn Carver, her face still pale, sat with her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Miss Clara Henshaw fidgeted with a bracelet, her earlier charm replaced by a nervous energy. Mr. Julian Trent's expression was unreadable, his eyes fixed on the deck as though studying its grain. Dr. Felix Langston mopped his brow with a handkerchief, muttering under his breath, while Mrs. Dorothea Blake's sharp gaze darted from Poirot to her fellow passengers. Mr. Ibrahim Khalil sat apart, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the other's agitation. Poirot turned first to Captain Harris. Capitaine, let us establish the timeline. When was Sir Reginald last seen alive, and by whom? Harris cleared his throat, his ruddy face glistening with sweat. Dinner ended at 8 o'clock. Sir Reginald was on deck showing that blasted scarab to Miss Henshaw and Mr. Trent. Most of us went below to change or rest. I was in the wheelhouse checking charts until I heard Lady Evelyn's scream at precisely 9:15. Poirot nodded, his fingers steepled. And the ship, it was anchored at this time? Yes, Harris confirmed. We dropped anchor at 7:30, just off Luxor. No one could have boarded or left without my crew noticing. A closed circle, then, Poirot murmured, his eyes gleaming. Bon, now, Lady Evelyn, you screamed. Why? Lady Evelyn's voice was low, almost a whisper. I came up to the deck at 9. I wanted to speak to Reginald.
Mademoiselle Henshaw, it was urgent enough to keep you from the deck? Trent's jaw tightened. It was private and irrelevant. Rien n'est irrelevant, Poirot replied sharply. Dr. Langston, you spoke of a curse. Were you on deck? Langston's hands trembled. No, I was in my cabin reading. I told you it's the scarab. Menkeper's tomb was inscribed with warnings. Death to those who steal the heart of the king. I warned Sir Reginald. Mrs. Blake snorted. Superstition, doctor. I was in the lounge alone reading a novel. I heard the scream and came up with the others. No curses here, just human greed. Poirot's eyes lingered on her. Madame Blake, you speak of greed. Did you covet the scarab? Her lips curved in a faint smile. "I'm a widow, Mr. Poirot, not a thief. But I know value when I see it." Sir Reginald was careless, flashing it about like a trophy. Mr. Khalil spoke last, his voice steady. "I was below, preparing notes for the tomb visit. I heard the scream and found Sir Reginald already dead. The scarab was gone." Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. "Merci. Now let us consider the facts. Sir Reginald was struck from behind, a single blow, between 8 and 9:15. The scarab was taken, but the case was left. The deck was empty, yet someone was here, unseen. Hastings. What do you observe?" Hastings started, caught off guard. "Well, the blood smear by the railing. It suggests he was standing there when he was hit. And the chair, it was tipped over, as if he fell against it." "Précisément," Poirot said. "But observe the chair. It is light, wicker, yet it did not break. The fall was controlled, not violent, and the teacup on the table untouched. The killer was careful, mon ami. This was no sudden rage." He turned to the group.
"Intéressant," Poirot murmured. The scarab was not just a treasure, but a danger. We must learn who knew of this note and who acted upon it. As they left the cabin, a faint sound, a creak from the corridor, made Hastings turn. The shadows were empty, but the air felt charged, as though the Nefertiti itself held its breath. Poirot's expression was serene, but his eyes burned with purpose. The hunt for the truth had begun, and no detail, however small, would escape Hercule Poirot's little grey cells. Chapter 4. The Interrogation of Motives. The morning sun cast a harsh glare across the Nefertiti's deck, where the passengers sat in uneasy silence, their breakfast untouched. The events of the previous night had drained the colour from the luxurious steamer, transforming it into a floating prison. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in a linen suit despite the rising heat, stood before the group, his hands clasped behind his back, his moustache perfectly symmetrical. Captain Arthur Hastings, at his side, felt the weight of the passengers' gazes, some defiant, others fearful, as Poirot prepared to delve deeper into the mystery of Sir Reginald Carver's murder. "Messieurs et mesdames," Poirot began, his voice cutting through the morning stillness. "Last night a man was killed, and the treasure stolen. But the scarab, it is not the heart of this crime. The heart lies in the human soul, its desires, its secrets, its betrayals. Today, Hercule Poirot will uncover these truths. Each of you will speak with me alone, and I shall listen to what you say, and what you do not." Hastings watched as the passengers exchanged glances, their unease palpable. Lady Evelyn's lips tightened, Miss Clara Henshaw's fingers twisted her bracelet, and Dr. Felix Langston's eyes darted nervously toward the river. Mr. Julian Trent sat with a studied calm, while Mrs. Dorothea Blake's sharp
ownership. Reginald believed Felix wanted the scarab for himself. Poirot nodded, dismissing her with a polite bow. Next came Dr. Langston, his nervous energy filling the room. "Mr. Poirot," he stammered, "I swear I was in my cabin. I'm no murderer. But that scarab, it's cursed. I told Reginald to leave it in the tomb, but he laughed at me." "Monsieur," Poirot said, his tone sharp, "curses do not strike with blunt objects. You argued with Sir Reginald. Why?" Langston's hands shook. He accused me of leaking details of the tomb to a rival expedition. I'm a scholar, not a thief, but he was paranoid, always looking over his shoulder. Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. "And where were you at 9 o'clock? "In my cabin, reading, I swear it." Miss Clara Henshaw entered next, her youthful bravado faltering under Poirot's scrutiny. "Mademoiselle, your interest in the scarab was evident," Poirot said. "Did you desire it for yourself?" Clara laughed, a brittle sound. It was beautiful, yes, but I'm no thief. I was with Julian, Mr. Trent, in the lounge. We were discussing investments. Her eyes flickered, avoiding Poirot's. Investments, Poirot repeated, his tone skeptical. And what did Sir Reginald say to you when you held the scarab? She hesitated. He teased me, said I'd make a fine collector someday. But he also mentioned something odd about the scarab being a key to greater treasures. I didn't understand. Mr. Julian Trent followed, his demeanour cool and controlled. Monsieur Trent, Poirot said, your business with Mademoiselle Henshaw kept you from the deck. Yet you are a man of commerce, not archaeology. Why were you so interested in Sir Reginald's find? Trent's eyes were hard. I invest in opportunities. Sir Reginald's discovery promised wealth. Museums, collectors, even governments would pay for them.
Khalil's voice was steady. The scarab is sacred to some in my country. Its removal angered local workers at the dig. Sir Reginald ignored their protests, but I urged caution. I was below deck, preparing for tomorrow, when I heard the scream. Poirot leaned forward. And the scarab, did you believe it cursed? Khalil's eyes met Poirot's. I believe in the power of belief, Mr. Poirot. Men kill for many reasons: greed, honor, fear. The scarab is merely a spark. As Khalil left, Poirot turned to Hastings, his eyes alight. Mon ami, the pieces begin to form a picture, but it is blurred. Lady Evelyn hides her pain, Langston his fear, Clara her true intentions. Trent is too composed, Mrs. Blake too observant, and Khalil, he knows more than he says. But one detail stands out. The scarab as a key. To what, Hastings? Hastings frowned. Another treasure? Something in the tomb? Peut-être, Poirot said. We must search Sir Reginald's cabin again. The answer lies in what he left behind. They returned to the archaeologist's cabin, where Poirot's meticulous search uncovered a hidden compartment in the desk. Inside was a map of Menkeper's tomb, with a cryptic note. The scarab unlocks the chamber of eternity. Trust no one. A faint smudge of ink on the map's edge caught Poirot's eye. A fingerprint, perhaps. Not Sir Reginald's. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured. This scarab is more than a jewel. It is a key, littéralement. But to what chamber? And who knew of this secret? As they emerged from the cabin, a distant thud echoed from the deck above, followed by a muffled cry. Hastings's pulse quickened, but Poirot's expression was one of calm resolve. The killer grows bold, Hastings. We must hurry, for the truth is impatient.
Lower something, or someone, into the water. But why? Hastings scanned the group. Lady Evelyn sat rigidly, her eyes fixed on the river. Miss Clara Henshaw clutched Mr. Julian Trent's arm, her face pale. Dr. Felix Langston was muttering about curses again, his hands trembling. Mrs. Dorothea Blake stood apart, her sharp eyes tracking Poirot's movements, while Mr. Ibrahim Khalil gazed at the Nile, his expression unreadable. Messieurs et mesdames, Poirot said, rising, this is no accident. Someone among us seeks to mislead. The rope, the cry, it is a distraction. A poisson rouge, how do you say, Hastings? A red herring, Hastings supplied, his mind racing. But what are they hiding? Précisément, Poirot said. The scarab is gone, Sir Reginald is dead, and now this. Let us consider the obvious suspect first, for it is in the obvious that we find the lie. All eyes turned to Dr. Langston, whose nervous demeanour had marked him as a target of suspicion. The Egyptologist shrank under the scrutiny, his voice rising. Why do you all stare at me? I've done nothing. I was in the lounge, I swear." Poirot's smile was thin. "Monsieur Langston, your fear is most illuminating. You speak of curses, yet you know much of the tomb. Did you desire the scarab for yourself?" Langston's face reddened. "I'm a scholar, not a thief." "Yes. I argued with Reginald. He accused me of sabotage, but I didn't kill him. I was in the lounge when I heard the cry, with Mrs. Blake. Mrs. Blake raised an eyebrow. You were there, Doctor, but you left briefly to fetch a book. You were gone perhaps 10 minutes. Langston's mouth opened, then closed. I needed air. I stepped onto the lower deck, but I saw nothing. Poirot's eyes gleamed. 10 minutes, monsieur. Enough time to cut
Far from the rope. It was irregular, as though something heavy had been dragged briefly across the wood. "Poirot," Hastings whispered, pointing. "Could that be from a struggle?"
Poirot knelt, examining the mark. "Bon oeil, Hastings. This is no ordinary scuff. It is deep, precise, as though something was placed here deliberately. A weight, perhaps, to anchor the rope. But the rope was cut, not untied. The killer is clever, but not flawless." He rose, addressing the group. "This incident, it is a performance. Someone wishes us to believe the scarab is gone, lost to the Nile. But Hercule Poirot does not believe in such convenient losses. We shall search the ship, every cabin, every corner. Captain Harris, organize your crew." Harris nodded, barking orders to his men. As the passengers dispersed, Poirot drew Hastings aside. "Mon ami, the rope is a lie, but it reveals a truth. The killer is among us, and they fear we draw near. Notice how each points to another. Langston to a curse, Mrs. Blake to Clara and Trent, Khalil to the river. But Lady Evelyn, she says little, yet her silence speaks volumes." Hastings frowned. "You think she's hiding something?" "Oui," Poirot said. "Her grief is real, but it is mixed with fear. We must watch her closely. And the map from Sir Reginald's cabin. The Chamber of Eternity. I suspect the scarab is not merely a jewel, but a key to a greater secret. We must visit the tomb tomorrow." As the crew began their search, Poirot and Hastings returned to Sir Reginald's cabin, where the archaeologist's papers lay scattered. Poirot sifted through them, his fingers pausing on a letter half hidden beneath a book. It was addressed to Sir Reginald, written in a hurried hand. The scarab must stay in Egypt.
Life.
"Poirot," Hastings said, breaking the silence. "This letter changes everything. Someone threatened Sir Reginald before his death. Could it be one of the passengers?" Poirot's moustache twitched as he folded the letter carefully, slipping it into his pocket. "Mon ami, this letter is a thread in the tapestry of this crime. The jasmine scent, it is distinctive. Feminine, perhaps, but we must not leap to conclusions. The clue lies not only in the words, but in the details. Why was it hidden, and why was it not destroyed?" He turned to the desk, his fingers tracing the edges of Sir Reginald's notebook. The map of Menkeper's tomb, with its cryptic note about the Chamber of Eternity, lay open, the smudged fingerprint still visible. Poirot's eyes gleamed as he examined it under the light of a small lamp. "Regardez, Hastings. This fingerprint, it is not Sir Reginald's. The ridge is too fine, the shape too delicate. It belongs to another. Someone who handled this map in secret." Hastings frowned. "But who? And why touch the map at all?" Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "To learn its secret, mon ami. The scarab, it is a key, but to what?
The map suggests a hidden chamber in the tomb, one Sir Reginald did not share with his companions. Someone knew of this. Someone who coveted what lies within. They left the cabin and ascended to the deck, where the crew's search had yielded nothing. No scarab, no weapon. Only the frayed rope and the scuff mark near the railing. The passengers were gathered in the lounge, their faces a mix of impatience and dread. Poirot's presence silenced their murmurs, his small figure commanding attention as he addressed them. "Messieurs et mesdames," he said, his voice steady. "The search has revealed no scarab, but it has confirmed one truth. The killer is among us. The rope, the cry, it was a performance to make us believe the scarab is lost. But Hercule Poirot
stammered. I use jasmine sometimes, but so do many women. It's common enough. Oui, but not so common on a steamer in the middle of the Nile, Poirot replied. And you, Madame Carver, your handkerchief, does it carry such a scent? Lady Evelyn's hand trembled as she raised her handkerchief. I use lavender, Mr. Poirot, not jasmine. Poirot nodded, his gaze shifting to the others. We shall see. Now let us discuss the map in Sir Reginald's cabin. It speaks of a hidden chamber, one the scarab may unlock. Who among you knew of this? Dr. Langston's voice was shrill. I knew of the tomb's layout, but not a chamber. Reginald kept his findings secret, even from me. He was paranoid, always locking his papers away. Mr. Khalil spoke softly. The tomb of Men-her-Ra is small, but ancient texts hint at hidden rooms for sacred relics. Sir Reginald believed the scarab was more than a jewel. I advised him to respect its significance, but he saw only its value. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Monsieur Khalil, you speak of respect. Did you know of the map? Khalil hesitated, then nodded. I saw it once, when Sir Reginald consulted me about the tomb's inscriptions, but I did not touch it. Poirot turned to Hastings, his voice low. Mon ami, the map is the key to the motive. The scarab unlocks a chamber, but what lies within? Wealth? Power? Or something darker? As the passengers dispersed, Poirot led Hastings to the deck, where the scuff mark and rope remained. He knelt, examining the mark again. Regardez, Hastings, this mark. It is not from a struggle, but from a heavy object, perhaps a bag or case, dragged briefly. The killer used the rope to lower something, but cut it to create the illusion of loss. The scarab is still on this ship. Hastings' eyes widened. You're certain? Certainement, Poirot said. The killer is clever, but buried in the hearts of its passengers. As the day wore on, Hastings felt the tension tighten, a noose of suspicion drawing closer around the truth. Chapter 7. Lies Beneath the Surface. The midday sun beat down on the Nefertiti, its relentless heat amplifying the tension that gripped the steamer's passengers. Hercule Poirot stood at the railing of the upper deck, his eyes scanning the shimmering Nile, as if it might yield the secrets hidden among the suspects. Captain Arthur Hastings, beside him, mopped his brow with a handkerchief, the weight of the investigation pressing heavily upon him. The faint scent of jasmine from the threatening letter, the cryptic map, and the staged distraction of the frayed rope swirled in his mind, each a piece of a puzzle that Poirot seemed to assemble with infuriating calm. Mon ami, Poirot said, his voice low, the killer grows restless. The rope, the cry, it was a clumsy attempt to divert us. But now we must dig deeper into the hearts of those aboard. Lies are like the sands of this desert. They shift, but they leave traces. Hastings nodded, glancing toward the lounge where the passengers were gathered, their voices muted but strained. Lady Evelyn's confession about the earlier letter. It's suspicious, don't you think? Why keep it secret until now? Poirot's mustache twitched. Oui, her silence is a clue in itself. She fears something,
Perhaps not just her husband's death, but what he knew. We must press further, Hastings, and observe the cracks in their facades. They entered the lounge, where the passengers sat in uneasy clusters. Lady Evelyn was alone, staring out a window, her face pale. Miss Clara Henshaw and Mr. Julian Trent sat close together, their conversation halting as Poirot approached. Dr. Felix Langston was scribbling notes, his hands unsteady, while Mrs. Dorothea Blake sipped tea, her eyes darting over the piercing.
Madame, you speak of motive, but what of your own? You are quick to point fingers, yet you were alone in the lounge when the cry was heard. What did you see?
Mrs. Blake's smile was tight. I saw nothing, Mr. Poirot. I was reading, as I said. But I heard Clara and Mr. Trent whispering earlier, something about a deal. Perhaps you should ask them. Clara flushed, her voice sharp. That's unfair. We were discussing investments, nothing more. Julian, tell him. Trent's tone was cold. As I've said, it was business. Private. I had no reason to harm Sir Reginald. Poirot turned to Khalil. Monsieur Khalil, you spoke of local unrest. Did Sir Reginald's workers know of the scarab's significance? Khalil's eyes were steady.
Some believed it sacred, yes. I warned Sir Reginald that removing it could provoke anger, but I was not on deck when he died. Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. Merci. Now I must ask you all to remain here while I examine the deck once more. Hastings, come. As they stepped onto the deck, Hastings whispered, They're all pointing at each other, Poirot. Mrs. Blake suspects Clara and Trent. Langston blames a curse. Khalil hints at outsiders. It's a tangle. Oui, a tangle of lies, Poirot said, crouching by the scuff mark near the railing. He traced it with a gloved finger, then examined the frayed rope again. This mark, Hastings. It is not from a bag, but from a shoe. A small shoe, perhaps a woman's. And the rope, cut cleanly, not torn. The killer planned this distraction. But they left a trace. Hastings' eyes widened. A woman! Lady Evelyn? Clara? Mrs. Blake? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Peut-être, but we must not assume. The jasmine scent, the fingerprint on the map, the shoe mark.
Mrs. Blake's reply was cool. You're young, dear, but not innocent. You and Mr. Trent were scheming. Don't deny it. Trent stood, his face hard. Enough. I won't be accused by a gossiping widow. Poirot raised a hand, silencing them. Calmez-vous. The truth does not emerge from quarrels, but from facts. I have found a diary, and it suggests Sir Reginald feared betrayal. Who among you spoke to him of the scarab's purpose? The room fell silent. Lady Evelyn's voice, barely audible, broke the stillness. He told me it was dangerous, that it unlocked something valuable. I begged him to leave it in Egypt, but he wouldn't listen. Poirot's gaze softened, but his tone was firm. Madame, why did you not share this before? Her eyes filled with tears. I was afraid of what it meant. I thought if I stayed silent, it would go away. Poirot nodded, his mind clearly racing. To Hastings he whispered, The cracks widen, mon ami. The killer believes they are safe, but they have left too many traces. Tomorrow we visit the tomb. There, the truth will begin to emerge. As the Nefertiti swayed gently on the Nile, Hastings felt the weight of secrets pressing closer, each lie a step toward the murderer's unmasking. Chapter 8. The Breaking Point. The Nefertiti rocked gently on the Nile's dark waters, its lanterns casting flickering shadows across the deck as night enveloped the steamer. The air was thick with the scent of river reeds and unspoken fears, the passengers' nerves frayed by the relentless scrutiny of Hercule Poirot. Captain Arthur Hastings stood in the lounge, watching the group as they sat in strained silence.
their eyes darting between one another. Poirot, his small figure poised with an air of quiet authority, had just returned from another examination of Sir Reginald Carver's cabin, his mind clearly alight with new connections. "Messieurs et mesdames," Poirot began, his voice cut
Of the scarab as a key to a hidden chamber. But there is more. A letter warning him to leave the scarab in Egypt was scented with jasmine, and a scuff mark on the deck from a small shoe suggests a woman's presence at the scene of the crime. Who will explain these things? A sharp intake of breath came from Clara.
"You can't think I did it," she cried, her voice breaking. "I used jasmine perfume, yes, but so do others. I was with Julian when Sir Reginald died." Trent's voice was cold. "She's right, Mr. Poirot. We were together. Accuse us if you must, but we had no reason to kill him." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Monsieur Trent, your calm is admirable, but your business with Mademoiselle Henshaw remains vague. Investments, you say? Or perhaps a plan to profit from the scarab?" Before Trent could respond, Lady Evelyn stood, her face pale but resolute. "Mr. Poirot, I can't bear this any longer. I must speak. Reginald, he wasn't himself these past weeks. He was obsessed with the scarab, convinced it would make him famous. But he was also afraid of someone on this ship. He told me the scarab unlocked a chamber in the tomb, one that held something more valuable than gold. I begged him to stop, to leave it be, but he wouldn't listen. And now—" Her voice broke, tears streaming down her face. "I should have told you sooner. I was afraid." The room fell silent, the weight of her confession settling over the group. Hastings felt a pang of sympathy, but Poirot's expression remained impassive. "Madame," he said gently, "your fear is understandable, but your silence has protected someone. Did you see anyone on the deck before you found your husband?" Lady Evelyn shook her head, her voice barely audible. "No, it was dark. I only saw him fall." Mrs. Blake's voice cut in, sharp and accusing. "How convenient, Lady
Your people." Khalil's eyes were steady. "I advised caution, not violence. The scarab's power is in belief, not in blood." Poirot nodded, his mind clearly racing. He turned to Hastings, his voice low. "Mon ami, Lady Evelyn's confession is a crack in the wall of lies, but it is not enough. The jasmine, the scuff mark, the diary, these point to a woman, perhaps, but also to a plan. We must push harder." He addressed the group again. "Tomorrow, we visit Menkheper's tomb. The scarab is a key, and the chamber it unlocks may reveal the motive for this crime. Until then, no one is to leave this ship. Captain Harris, ensure it." As the passengers dispersed, their faces etched with fear and suspicion, Hastings caught a fleeting movement near the lounge door, a shadow perhaps, or the rustle of fabric. He turned, but saw nothing. "Poirot," he whispered, "did you see that?" Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Oui, mon ami. Someone listens, someone watches. The killer is close, and they grow desperate." They returned to Sir Reginald's cabin, where Poirot examined the diary again. A loose page, tucked at the back, caught his eye. It was a sketch of the scarab with a notation, "Slot in chamber wall, third pillar. Trust only. E." Poirot's fingers paused, his expression one of quiet triumph. "Mon Dieu," he murmured. "The scarab fits a mechanism in the tomb. And E, Evelyn, perhaps, or another. This is the key, Hastings, to both the chamber and the crime." As they left the cabin, a faint creak echoed from the corridor, the same sound Hastings had heard before. Poirot's hand gripped his arm, his voice a whisper. "The killer is near, mon ami. Tomorrow, In the tomb, we shall set a trap. The truth cannot hide forever. The Nefertiti lay silent, its secrets
small shoe, and Lady Evelyn's tearful confession all pointed to a truth just out of reach. But the tomb, Poirot believed, held the final clue. The group, Lady Evelyn Carver, Miss Clara Henshaw, Mr. Julian Trent, Dr. Felix Langston, Mrs. Dorothea Blake, and Mr. Ibrahim Khalil followed Poirot and Hastings ashore, accompanied by Captain Harris and 2 crew members for security. The air was dry, the heat oppressive, as they trekked toward the tomb's entrance, a low, dark opening carved into the rocky hillside. Khalil led the way, his knowledge of the site evident in his sure steps. Inside, the tomb was cool and shadowed, its walls adorned with faded hieroglyphs and scenes of Men-her-Ra's reign. The air smelled of dust and time, and Hastings felt a shiver despite the warmth of his jacket. Poirot's eyes darted over the walls, lingering on the 3rd pillar, a squat column etched with symbols of scarabs and stars. "Messieurs et mesdames," Poirot said, his voice echoing in the stone chamber. "This is the tomb of Men-her-Ra, where Sir Reginald found the scarab. His diary speaks of a hidden chamber unlocked by the scarab itself. I believe the killer sought this secret, and they are here, among us, watching." A murmur of unease rippled through the group. Lady Evelyn clutched her shawl, her eyes fixed on the pillar. Clara's fingers twitched, as if itching to touch something, while Trent's face remained impassive. Langston's voice was a whisper. "It's cursed, I tell you." "We shouldn't be here." Mrs. Blake's laugh was sharp. "Curses again, Doctor?" "It's greed that brought us here, not magic." Khalil's voice was calm. The scarab was Men-her-Ra's heart, his protection in the afterlife. To remove it was to invite judgment. Poirot's gaze was piercing. "Monsieur Khalil, you speak of judgment, yet you guided Sir Reginald to this tomb. Did you know of the hidden chamber?"
With Reginald's memory. Poirot's expression was unyielding.
"Madame, the truth requires sacrifice."
"Captain Harris, proceed." Harris nodded, leading his crew back to the ship. Poirot gestured for Hastings to follow him to a corner of the chamber, where he whispered,
"Mon ami, this is the trap. The killer believes the scarab is safe, hidden on the ship, but fear will drive them to act. Watch their faces, their hands. The smallest gesture will betray them."
Hastings glanced at the group, their silhouettes stark against the torchlit walls. Lady Evelyn's hands were clasped tightly, her eyes darting to the pillar. Clara stood close to Trent, her bracelet jangling faintly. Langston was sweating, his mutterings incoherent. Mrs. Blake's gaze was fixed on Poirot, while Khalil stood near the entrance, his posture calm but alert. Minutes passed, the silence broken only by the distant drip of water. Then, a faint clatter echoed from the pillar's base, as if something had fallen. Poirot's head snapped toward it, his eyes blazing. He knelt, retrieving a small object, a hairpin, bent and glinting in the torchlight.
"Mon Dieu,"
he murmured, holding it up.
"This is no ancient relic. It belongs to one of you. Who dropped it, in their haste to check the pillar?"
Clara gasped, touching her hair.
It's mine, but I didn't drop it, I swear."
Trent's voice was sharp. "She's telling the truth, Poirot. Someone could have taken it." Poirot's smile was grim.
"We, or someone could have used it to probe the slot, to see if the scarab's absence was noticed. The killer is clever, but they are not invisible."
As the group shifted uneasily, a shout came from outside. Harris appeared at the tomb's entrance, his face flushed. "Mr. Poirot, we found something in Miss Henshaw's cabin, a velvet pouch hidden in her trunk. It's empty, but it smells of jasmine." Clara's face drained of
the room, his small, immaculate figure radiating authority. Captain Arthur Hastings, at his side, felt the weight of the moment. This was the culmination of Poirot's meticulous unraveling of Sir Reginald Carver's murder. "Monsieur et Mesdames," Poirot began, his voice clear and commanding. "Tonight, Hercule Poirot will reveal the truth. A man is dead, a scarab stolen, and a web of lies spun to conceal the crime. But the little gray cells, they do not rest. The truth is clear, and the murderer stands among us." A collective gasp rippled through the group. Lady Evelyn Carver clutched her shawl, her eyes wide. Miss Clara Henshaw's hands trembled, her bracelet silent for once. Mr. Julian Trent's jaw tightened, his gaze steady but wary. Dr. Felix Langston mopped his brow, muttering incoherently, while Mrs. Dorothea Blake's sharp eyes narrowed. Mr. Ibrahim Khalil stood calmly, his expression unreadable. Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. "Let us reconstruct the crime. Sir Reginald Carver was struck from behind on the deck, a single precise blow, and the amethyst scarab was taken. The rope, the cry, the scuff mark, these were distractions, meant to suggest the scarab was lost to the Nile. But it is not. It is here, on this ship, hidden by the killer." He paused, his eyes sweeping the room. "The clues are many. A letter scented with jasmine warned Sir Reginald to leave the scarab in Egypt. A map in his cabin spoke of a hidden chamber in Menkeper's tomb, unlocked by the scarab. A diary revealed his suspicions of betrayal. A hairpin, a velvet pouch, a scuff mark from a small shoe. These point to a woman, n'est-ce pas? But let us not be hasty. The truth lies in the contradictions." Poirot turned to Clara. "Mademoiselle Henshaw." "Monsieur, your fear of the curse is genuine. But is it a mask for guilt? You argued with Sir Reginald over the tomb's ownership." Langston's voice was shrill. "I'm no murderer. I wanted the tomb preserved, not plundered." Finally, Poirot faced Khalil. "Monsieur Khalil, you know the scarab's sacred value. Did you seek to protect it by removing Sir Reginald?" Khalil's eyes were steady. "I advised caution, not violence. I was below deck when he died." Poirot's smile was triumphant. "Oui, but the truth is not in alibis alone. Let us consider the scarab's purpose. It is a key to a hidden chamber, one Sir Reginald believed held great treasure. But who knew this? The diary suggests Clara and Trent, yet the letter points to a deeper motive. The jasmine scent, the hairpin, the scuff mark, these are not accidents. They are the killer's mistakes." He paused, his eyes locking onto Mrs. Blake. "Madame Blake, you are the architect of this crime. You killed Sir Reginald Carver." A stunned silence fell. Mrs. Blake's face paled, but she laughed. "Ridiculous! You have no proof!" Poirot's voice was relentless. "Au contraire, the jasmine scent on the letter matches the perfume you wear, though you denied it. The hairpin found in the tomb is yours. I saw it in your hair yesterday. The scuff mark on the deck matches your small, elegant shoes. You were not reading in the lounge. You were on the deck, striking Sir Reginald from behind. You took the scarab not for its value, but because you knew it unlocked the chamber, a chamber you believed held riches to secure your future." Mrs. Blake's composure cracked, her eyes blazing. "This is nonsense. Why would I—" Poirot raised a hand. "You are a widow, madame, but not without ambition. Sir Reginald's diary mentions a woman who asked about his finances, a woman who—" Mrs. Blake. The passengers exhaled, their tension breaking. Lady Evelyn wept softly. Clara clung to Trent, and Langston shook his head, muttering about curses fulfilled. Khalil's expression was one of quiet sorrow. Poirot turned to Hastings. "Mon ami, the little grey cells have triumphed. The scarab is recovered, the killer unmasked. But the tomb's secret remains. Tomorrow we shall see what it holds. The Nefertiti lay still, its mystery solved, but the echoes of the crime lingered in the night air. Chapter 11. The Reflection. The Nefertiti lay quiet on the Nile, its lanterns casting a soft glow over the deck as the night deepened. The revelation of Mrs. Dorothea Blake as Sir Reginald Carver's murderer had left the passengers in a state of stunned relief, their faces reflecting a mixture of exhaustion and disbelief. Hercule Poirot stood at the railing, his small, meticulous figure silhouetted against the moonlit river, his eyes distant yet contemplative. Captain Arthur Hastings, beside him, felt the weight of the case lifting, though questions lingered in his mind like the faint ripples on the water. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice soft but resonant, "the truth has been uncovered, the scarab recovered, and justice it will be served. Yet, as always, there is more to learn from the human heart than from the crime itself." Hastings glanced at him, puzzled. "You mean Mrs. Blake's motive? Greed, wasn't it? She wanted the treasure in the hidden chamber." Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Oui, greed was the spark, but beneath it lies a deeper truth. Madame Blake was not merely a widow seeking wealth. She was a woman desperate to reclaim a life she felt stolen from her. Her mourning dress, her sharp observations, these were masks for a heart that yearned for control, for power over her own fate. It is this, Hastings, that drives Pillar suggests a secret yet to be revealed. But for tonight, let us reflect. The crime is solved, but the heart of the tomb, it waits." They stood in silence for a moment, the Nile's gentle lapping against the hull, a soothing counterpoint to the day's intensity. Hastings thought of Mrs. Blake's confession, her panic-stricken admission of striking Sir Reginald with a paperweight. The jasmine-scented letter, the hairpin, the scuff mark, all had pointed to her. Yet Poirot's genius lay in weaving these fragments into a coherent whole. "You knew it was her all along, didn't you?" Hastings asked. Poirot chuckled softly. "Not all along, Hastings. The little gray cells, they work step by step. The jasmine was a clue, but it was her behavior, her quick accusations, her too keen observations that betrayed her. She watched others to deflect from herself, but she could not hide from Hercule Poirot." Hastings smiled, accustomed to Poirot's pride, but never tiring of it. "And the rope, the cry, all to make us think the scarab was gone?" "Oui," Poirot said, "a clever ruse, but flawed. The rope was cut too cleanly, the scuff mark too precise. She underestimated the power of the small things, the details that reveal the truth. And the hairpin in the tomb, mon Dieu, such carelessness. It was her undoing." As they turned to rejoin the others, Captain Harris approached, his face weary but resolute. "Mr. Poirot, Mrs. Blake is secured in a locked cabin. We'll hand her over to the authorities in Luxor tomorrow. But the passengers, they're restless. They want to know about the tomb." Poirot nodded. "Capitaine, assure them we shall visit the tomb at dawn. The scarab will unlock its secret, and then, perhaps, they will find peace." Harris saluted and left, leaving Poirot and Hastings alone once more. Poirot's gaze returned to the river, his expression softening. "Mon ami." Each case. First light of dawn painted the Valley of the Kings in hues of gold and amber, the air cool and crisp as the Nefertiti's passengers disembarked for their final visit to Menkaper's tomb. Hercule Poirot led the way, the amethyst scarab now safely in his possession, its purple surface glinting in the early sunlight. Captain Arthur Hastings followed, his heart pounding with anticipation. The revelation of Mrs. Dorothea Blake as the murderer had resolved the crime, but the mystery of the tomb's hidden chamber, the chamber of eternity noted in Sir Reginald Carver's diary, remained unsolved. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice low as they approached the tomb's entrance, Today we uncover the secret that drove a woman to murder. The scarab is the key, but what it unlocks, this is the final piece of the puzzle. The group, Lady Evelyn Carver, Miss Clara Henshaw, Mr. Julian Trent, Dr. Felix Langston, and Mr. Ibrahim Khalil, trailed behind, their faces a mix of curiosity and trepidation. Captain Harris and 2 crew members flanked them, ensuring no one strayed. The weight of Mrs. Blake's absence was palpable, her confession still echoing in their minds. Inside the tomb, the air was cool and heavy, the walls alive with ancient carvings. Poirot moved directly to the 3rd pillar, its scarab and star motifs barely visible in the torchlight. He held up the amethyst scarab, its intricate design catching the flickering glow. "Messieurs et mesdames," he said, his voice resonating in the stone chamber. Sir Reginald believed this scarab unlocked a hidden chamber, a secret he guarded even from those closest to him. Let us see if he was right. He pressed the scarab into the circular indentation on the pillar, twisting it gently. A low grinding sound filled the chamber, dust sifting from the ceiling as a section of the wall slid open, revealing green jade surface etched with hieroglyphs. "Regardez," he said. "This is the true treasure, a relic of faith, not gold." Sir Reginald misunderstood its value, and Mrs. Blake killed for a dream of riches that did not exist. Lady Evelyn's voice trembled. Reginald. He thought it was gold, jewels. He was so driven by fame. Clara's eyes were wide. "So there's no treasure? Just this?" Poirot's smile was gentle. "Mademoiselle, treasure is what we value. To Menkepper, this was eternity. To Sir Reginald, it was glory. To Mrs. Blake, it was escape. Each saw what they wished, but only one paid the ultimate price." Trent's voice was curt. "Then why kill for it, if it's just a religious trinket?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Monsieur, Mrs. Blake believed Sir Reginald's tales of wealth. She saw his obsession, his secrecy, and assumed a fortune awaited. The diary, the map, the letter, she wove these into a plan. But her greed blinded her to the truth." Khalil spoke softly. "The scarab should remain here. Its theft brought death. Its return may bring peace." Poirot nodded. "Oui, Monsieur Khalil. The scarab will stay, and the authorities will be informed. The tomb's secret is safe." As they emerged from the tomb, the sun now high, Hastings felt a sense of closure. The chamber had revealed not gold, but a deeper truth about human desire. He glanced at Poirot, who walked with quiet satisfaction. "You knew the chamber wouldn't hold riches, didn't you?" Hastings asked. Poirot chuckled. "Mon ami, I suspected. Sir Reginald's notes spoke of eternity, not wealth. The little gray cells, they see beyond the glitter of gold to the heart of the matter." The group boarded the Nefertiti. The weight of the Nile's shimmering surface. Captain Arthur Hastings, leaning against the railing beside him, felt a strange mixture of relief and unease. The murder of Sir Reginald Carver had been solved, the amethyst scarab recovered, and the hidden chamber's secret, a sacred jade scarab, revealed. Yet something lingered, a faint discord that Hastings could not shake. "Poirot?" Hastings said, breaking the silence. "It's over, isn't it?" Mrs. Blake confessed. "The scarab's back where it belongs. But why do I feel there's more to this?" Poirot's mustache twitched, his green-gray eyes glinting with a familiar spark. "Mon ami, your instincts are not entirely wrong. The crime is solved, the killer unmasked. But the echoes of this case, they resonate still. The human heart, it does not rest easily, even when justice is served. There are questions, small threads, that remain. Hastings frowned. Threads? Like what? The chambers open, the scarabs returned. What's left? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. The motives, Hastings. Not just Mrs. Blake's, but those of the others. Why did Lady Evelyn hide her husband's fears for so long? Why did Mademoiselle Henshaw and Monsieur Trent whisper of business? And Monsieur Khalil, his calm. It is almost too perfect. These are not the actions of guilt, perhaps, but of secrets yet untold. The passengers were gathered in the lounge, their voices hushed as they processed the events in the tomb. Lady Evelyn sat alone, her shawl draped loosely over her shoulders, her gaze distant. Miss Clara Henshaw and Mr. Julian Trent were seated together, but their conversation was stilted, their earlier closeness strained. Dr. Felix Langston was scribbling furiously in his notebook, as if trying to reclaim his scholarly dignity. Mr. Ibrahim Khalil stood near the door, his eyes scanning the room with quiet intensity. Poirot nodded, turning to Clara and Trent. Mademoiselle Henshaw, Monsieur Trent, your business discussions have been vague. Sir Reginald's diary noted your interest in the scarab, mademoiselle. Did you seek to profit from it? Clara's cheeks flushed, her voice sharp. I told you, I only admired it. Yes, I asked questions. Reginald loved to talk about his finds, but I wasn't plotting anything. Trent's tone was clipped. And I was exploring investment opportunities, as I said. Sir Reginald's discoveries could have drawn collectors, museums. It was business, not murder. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Monsieur, your composure is admirable, but your evasions are not. You knew the scarab's value, perhaps more than you admit. He turned to Langston, who flinched under his gaze. Monsieur Langston, your fear of the curse masked another fear, no? Sir Reginald accused you of leaking details of the tomb. Was there truth in this? Langston's voice was hoarse. I may have spoken to a colleague, but it was academic, not betrayal. I didn't want the scarab. I wanted the tomb preserved. Finally, Poirot faced Khalil. Monsieur Khalil, you guided Sir Reginald, yet you warned him of unrest. Did you know more of the scarab's significance than you revealed? Khalil's expression was calm. I told you, Mr. Poirot, the scarab is sacred to my people. I urged caution, but Sir Reginald saw only glory. I had no part in his death. Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. Merci. Each of you carries a burden, a secret, a regret. Mrs. Blake's greed led to murder, but your silences, your half-truths, they fed the shadows. Madame Carver, your fear protected the killer's plan. Mademoiselle Henshaw and Monsieur Trent, your ambitions clouded the truth. To disembark, their lives forever marked by the events on the Nefertiti. Poirot's gaze lingered on the horizon, his mind already turning to the next mystery, while Hastings felt the quiet satisfaction of a case closed, but with echoes that would not fade. Chapter 14. The Weight of Truth. The Nefertiti docked at Luxor under a sky ablaze with the colors of dusk, the Nile reflecting hues of orange and violet as the passengers prepared to disembark. The air was warm, heavy with the scent of dust and river water, and an unspoken relief permeated the group, tempered by the lingering shadow of Sir Reginald Carver's murder. Hercule Poirot stood on the deck, his small, immaculate figure a beacon of calm amidst the subdued chaos. Captain Arthur Hastings, at his side, felt the weight of the case settling into a quiet resolution, though the echoes of Poirot's revelations in the lounge still reverberated in his mind. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice soft as he gazed at the bustling key. "The truth has been laid bare. The scarab returned to its rightful place, and justice awaits Madame Blake. Yet, as always, the end of a case brings not only answers but questions of morality, of human frailty." Hastings nodded, his thoughts drifting to the passengers. Lady Evelyn Carver had emerged from her cabin, her face pale but composed, ready to face the authorities and the legacy of her husband's ambition. Miss Clara Henshaw and Mr. Julian Trent stood apart, their once close alliance frayed by Poirot's probing questions. Dr. Felix Langston, his scholarly pride bruised, clutched his notebook as if it could shield him from the reality of the crime. Mr. Ibrahim Khalil, ever enigmatic, supervised the crew as they secured the ship, his calm demeanor betraying no hint of the secrets he might still hold. "Poirot," Hastings said, "you laid bare their secrets in the lounge, Lady Evelyn's silence, Clara and Trent's ambitions, Langston's
Lady Evelyn approached, her eyes red but steady.
"Mr. Poirot, I owe you my thanks. You've given me answers, though they're painful. Reginald's obsession with the scarab, it consumed him. I should have spoken sooner." Poirot's gaze was gentle. "Madame, the heart is a complex thing. Your silence was born of love, not malice. Go now, and honor your husband's memory by living well." She nodded, tears welling, and turned away. Clara and Trent passed by, their conversation hushed. Clara glanced at Poirot, her expression a mix of defiance and gratitude. "You make me look guilty, Mr. Poirot, but I suppose I should thank you for finding the truth." Trent's voice was curt. "Let's just leave this behind, Clara. It's over." Poirot's smile was faint. "Mademoiselle, monsieur, the truth is never left behind. It shapes you, whether you wish it or not." Langston shuffled forward, his notebook clutched tightly. "Mr. Poirot, I was wrong about the curse, but I wasn't wrong about the tomb. It should be preserved, studied, not plundered." Poirot inclined his head. "Monsieur, your passion is admirable, but temper it with wisdom. The past speaks, but only to those who listen with respect." Khalil was the last to approach, his dark eyes meeting Poirot's with quiet intensity. "Mr. Poirot, you have honored my people by returning the scarab. The tomb's secret is safe, but I wonder, did you suspect me?" Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Monsieur Khalil, you are a man of secrets, but not of murder. Your restraint, your knowledge, they served the truth, even if you guarded your own counsel." Khalil bowed slightly. "You see much, Mr. Poirot. May you find peace in your next journey." As the passengers disembarked, Hastings and Poirot remained on the deck, the Nefertiti now nearly empty. Hastings felt a pang of melancholy, the thrill of the case giving way to a quiet reflection.
And a truth that would linger in the hearts of all who had sailed upon her. Chapter 15. The Quiet Departure. The lights of Luxor glimmered like scattered jewels against the velvet night, their reflections dancing on the Nile as Hercule Poirot and Captain Arthur Hastings stood on the quay, the Nefertiti now a silent silhouette behind them. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of desert dust and river water, a stark contrast to the stifling tension that had gripped the steamer for days. The case was closed. Mrs. Dorothea Blake was in the custody of the Luxor authorities. The amethyst scarab and the jade heart scarab were secured for return to Menkeper's tomb, and the passengers had dispersed, their lives forever altered by the truth Poirot had uncovered. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice soft yet resonant as he adjusted his hat. "The curtain falls on this drama, but the stage of human nature, it is never empty. Each case, it leaves its mark, n'est-ce pas?" Hastings nodded, his gaze lingering on the river. The weight of the investigation, the jasmine-scented letter,
The scuff mark, the hidden chamber, had lifted, but its echoes lingered in his thoughts. "You're right, Poirot. This one feels heavier, somehow." Mrs. Blake's greed, Lady Evelyn's silence, all those secrets. It's like the tomb itself was a mirror for their souls. Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile playing on his lips. Précisément, Hastings. The tomb of Men-her-Ra revealed more than a scarab. It showed us the desires that drive men and women to betrayal, to murder, to silence. But it is the task of Hercule Poirot to bring light to such darkness, to restore order where chaos reigns. They began walking toward the heart of Luxor, where a carriage awaited to take them to their hotel. The quay was bustling with porters and vendors, their voices a lively counterpoint to the solemnity of the moment. Hastings thought, "Heart is with his people. As for Madame Blake, her lesson comes too late." Hastings frowned. "It's grim, isn't it? All this for a scarab that wasn't even gold." Poirot's smile was wistful. "Oui, but it was never about the scarab, Hastings. It was about what it represented. Wealth, power, eternity. Each saw in it their own dream, and in chasing it, they lost themselves. This is the tragedy of the human heart." They reached the carriage, its driver nodding respectfully as they climbed in. As the horses clopped through Luxor's streets, Poirot leaned back, his hands folded neatly. "This case, it reminds me of a truth I have long held. The smallest detail, a scent, a mark, a word, can unravel the greatest deception. The little grey cells, they see what others miss," Hastings chuckled. "You never tire of those grey cells, do you? I swear, Poirot, you make it sound like they're the real hero." Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Mais bien sûr, mon ami. They are the tools of justice, the light in the darkness. And with them, Hercule Poirot will always find the truth." The carriage rolled on, carrying them toward the hotel, where they would rest before their journey back to England. The Nile faded into the distance, its eternal flow a reminder of the timeless truths Poirot had uncovered. Hastings felt a quiet pride in his friend's genius, tempered by a melancholy for the lives touched by the tragedy. The Nefertiti, the tomb, the scarab, they were now part of a story that would linger in his memory, a tale of greed, secrets, and the relentless pursuit of truth. As the stars emerged above Luxor, Poirot's voice broke the silence once more. "Mon ami, the world is full of mysteries, and we shall meet them again, but for tonight let us rest. The Nile has spoken, and Hercule Poirot has listened." With that, the carriage turned a corner, and the lights of Luxor enveloped them, marking the end of one adventure and the quiet promise